welcome to the 68th episode of NiinaN Knitting. My name is Niina and I live in Jyväskylä in central Finland with my husband, our 2 kids, and a dog. Today is March 3rd, Wednesday, and I'm alone at home, which is exceptional. The kids are on their winter vacation. My son is with his friends, and my husband just took our daughter to check on my mother-in-law's place at the countryside. So I decided it's now or never, because I've been planning to do this video for quite a while. If I had done this like a week or 2 ago, I would have put the title, "Where did all this come from?" But since I'm doing it now, I have given the title that you see something old, something new. And of course, you can sort of guess what that means. I have quite a few things to show you, but let's just start with things that people normally start with. So you can see my Ravelry name on the screen. I'm NiinaN in there, and I have an Instagram handle. I'm NiinaN Knitting in there, and I also have a reading Instagram, but I'll mention it at the end of the episode, where I talk about the reading if I remember to do that. Anyway, so I have stuff to show you. The video that you saw at the beginning, I took it about a week ago. I was walking the dog, and I just figured that it would be fun to show you the piles of snow we had. Notice the past tense. So we've gotten quite a bit of snow here in the central Finland this winter, and the piles of snow were really high. These past few days, like 3 or so days, and the temperature's been above 0, which means that with the power of the sun, the snow piles have sort of gone down a little bit. The snow has melted at places, but that doesn't mean that spring is here. It means just that at the moment, or let's say yesterday, it was starting to look like spring. Today, the temperature has sunk below 0 again, and according to the weather forecasts, it'll continue to do that. So winter is not over in here. I have a Ravelry group for the podcast. Nobody ever goes there anymore, but I do have that. You'll find a link to the episode thread below the video, and I will also put the show notes below the video, because that's where people see it. So I'll link my projects, and I think that's it, because I'm not planning to talk about other stuff. We'll see. But if there are any links, they'll be found. They will be found down below in the description bar. Yeah. So don't have that many finished objects, but I have been doing this and that and the other. I forgot to tell you last time that I was going to make a separate video of the stuff that I've been sewing. I wasn't sure if that was going to be a repetitive thing or if I will do that again, but since now I have quite a few things to show you, I'll do that again today or this time also. So, and there won't be any sewing in this video, but I will make another video for the sewing stuff, and it will be appearing on the same channel, even though this is called NiinaN Knitting, but I have some crochets, so I'm not very consistent with the title anyway. So there'll be a separate video for sewing stuff. If you're not interested, you can just skip it, because that one will not contain anything else. Yeah, so my hair is a mess at the moment. I'm planning to get a haircut, but I'll do that towards the spring or closer to the summer, so it'll be shorter. I have a specific kind of haircut in mind, but yeah, so I just put it up now and it's better like this. Let's start the show with this pair. I hope that light is okay for you. I opened all the blinds to enable or to get as much natural light in as possible. But yes, so this beautiful pair is called Where the Treetops Glisten. It's a pattern by NiinaN. And if you've watched my podcast for a while, you'll know that I have made quite a few pairs of NiinaN socks. She designs beautiful socks. The yarn that I used, you can see that I have two different dye lots. I'll talk about that in a little minute. But this is Novita Venla yarn. It's a very basic Finnish sock yarn fingering weight, which in Finland is not very basic, but you know. So Venla is 420 meters, I think. Yeah, to 100 grams, it's 75% wool, 25% polyamide. And this colorway is number 543. And yes, I have two different dye lots. It doesn't bother me at all. I knew that from the start. I had two scraps of the same color. I knew that they were not the same dye lot, and I could see with my own eyes when I put them beside each other. I could see that they were a little different, but I just decided that since I was knitting them two at a time on magic loop with my 2.5 millimeter Chaugu red lace needles, and that is US size 1.5. I knew that I would run out of the first dye lot in the same place, so it doesn't matter if I just continued with the other. I was not going to bother with striping with the next dye lot or anything. It shows in natural light, as you can see on camera, I think, but I'm not sure that anybody will be looking at my feet that closely, so it really doesn't matter. So this pattern is something that I have had in my Ravelry queue for a few years, I think. And this is the exact color I wanted to make it in. And these are the beads that I was planning to use. So they are glass beads, something that I bought on eBay years ago. They're see-through otherwise, but and the hole has been not gilded, but silvered. It has a silver coating. So the cylinder of the hole has a silver coating, and otherwise they're just, see-through glass. And I thought that since the name of the pattern was Where the Treetops Glisten, this would be the glistening, when you see trees in the winter with sort of coatings of snow on the branches, and you have the sunlight coming right at the right angle, and it looks like there are these small diamonds on the branches. So that was sort of my image, and I guess that might have been the image that the designer had. But yeah, so I'd say that these are sort of the tree branches, and actually they are there's the same pattern of beads here on the foot too. I know that not everybody likes to have beads in the foot, and you don't really need to put them in if you don't like to. But you know, I wanted it. I don't tend to wear so fitted shoes in the winter that I couldn't wear a sock with beads. I have pretty loose, big shoes in the winter, so they don't bother me, but I know that some people find it uncomfortable. And if you have a really tight shoe, then maybe you will feel the beads, especially in the back. I haven't shown you the back, but I was going to talk about the front first. So you have the beads here, and then you have this faux cable right in the front, and then it turns into some seat stitches with some 1x1 cables here in the edges, and then you have, is it? Yes, it is. And then you have these motifs that are also made with 1x1 twists or cables. That's really fun. And then you have the reverse stockinette. Then you have another really tiny cable, and then the seed stitch or something, another small cable, and then just sort of ribbing with the twisted knit stitches. I really, really love all the details in the socks. They are beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful. The back of the leg is something that I actually, where I made a mistake, but I think my mistake is a pretty one. So first of all, you have the ribbing sort of in the back. You have a string of beads there in the back also. But actually we're supposed to do the ribbing for like this much, and then the rest of it would have been just plain stockinette. I wasn't looking at the chart closely enough, so I just continued with the ribbing. But actually I think it looks nice. This is where you start doing the heel increases. So this is, I think, what people call fleagle heel. So you have heel increases in here. You're doing, going round and round all the time and continuing with the beads. I think that in here, some people will find it uncomfortable to have the beads, but like I said, you don't have to put them in if you don't like to. If you don't want to, I wanted to. So yeah, you do the increases going around and round, and then you do short rows for a while to turn the heel in here, and then you continued going round and round. This is a really nice heel. I like it. I think all the hiding patterns that I've knit have had this same kind of heel. It's really nice. These beads in here, now for me, these socks are just, the epiphany of like ladylike, a bit like sexy, very sophisticated socks. And even the back of the leg with the beads, it reminds me of I guess it was a long time ago, like maybe 19, or what would I say, 40s or something, when women, well, first of all, you weren't supposed to show your knees or legs much. But if you wanted to be a bit sexy, you would have these like seamed socks. So you had the black seam, you had the nylons, which was something new, but then you had a seam at the back of the leg in your nylons, I think. So this is sort of, for me, reminiscent of that, like, ooh, fancy socks. I really, really love these. They are so pretty. I took some photos of them one morning and in the morning light, so you don't see the difference in dye lots in there, but yeah, normally you would if you have the right kind of or enough light. You'll see that it's two different dye lots. I don't care. They are so pretty. I'm really happy with them. Can you tell? Then I have two finished objects. My other finished object is something that I actually just finished not long ago. And it's what's a sort of a produce bag, I think. Doesn't look like much like this. I went on Ravelry and I searched for crochet patterns and with a search word doily, because that's what I sort of decided to try. I would start with a round doily, the tablecloths that sort of that you can crochet. I'll put a picture of this doily that I had finished before I continued to making it into a bag, because you can't really see much. Well, you can see something, but the sort of netting or the thing in the back disturbs your vision like this. But yeah, I took a picture once I had so this, let's start with the pattern that I used. It is called Doily Peace Bloom by Ekaterina Sleptsova, and it's a round doily, and the yarn that I used here is something that I got from a friend of mine a few years ago. She had some yarns from her late aunt or something. I have this same yarn in different colors, and at least one of them has a ball band. This is a very old yarn, crochet yarn, virkkauslanka in Finnish, and Rondo is sort of the name of the yarn, I think. And it has 550 meters in 100 grams. I have it in this sort of pink. It's not as pink as it looks. Sort of a dusky pink, really. And then this beige color, and then I have it in a sort of a green color. And so it's pretty thin. I used a hook from a set that I got years ago from eBay. I was planning to give this for one of my nieces because she was interested in, or she had shown interest in some crocheting. So I bought this set for her. But the bigger sizes, the ones that are in wood or wooden, I tried using these, and I felt it was really, really difficult to use these. So I decided not to give them to her, because why would I want to give her something that was not a good tool for crocheting? But the metal ones, the smaller sizes, are okay. So I use this. So I used this 2.5 millimeter crochet hook, and I crocheted it. And when I had finished the the indications or the pattern was in charts. One of them was the part that I made, and then there was another chart to do a few rounds more. I decided to stop where I did, and then I blocked the doily, and that's where I have taken the photo. And then I just so this is like how far the instructions went. Then I just took some crochet, was the chains, and then I made a single crochet in the sort of middle of a crochet chain. Yeah, I think I made 12 chains and then a single crochet, etc. And I continued doing that. Decided, okay, this is not going to be very big. Something for, I don't know, a few tomatoes or something. So I just decided that, okay, this is going to be like high enough or big enough, whatever. And then I made a border. Let's see if I can show it to you. So I made, I think I made some crochet chains and a single crochet to make it a smaller circumference. And then I made some, I'm gonna check. Yeah, single crochets around, and then double crochets around and double crochets, and then these, what are these, scallops or something that I've seen in crochet patterns. So that's what I sort of bordered it with, and I think it looks okay. And then I crocheted these chains, 2 of them, to be able to close it. I will add sort of a paper card where you can put your tags when you go to the store and buy some tomatoes or something, and then you weigh them on the scales. At least in Finland, that's how you do it in most supermarkets. You take your tomatoes and you put it on a scale, and the tomatoes are a certain number, and then you get a price tag and you put it on your produce bag. But I know that if you try to put it in here, it won't stick, so you'll need a separate card to put it in. But yes, this is my other finished object, and yeah, it was fun, and it was just something that I wasn't planning to do now, but the idea just got in my head one day. I was knitting on something else, and I was like, oh yeah, I could try that. So I'm guessing there'll be quite a few patterns for doilies on Ravelry. Yeah, I might do that. And sort of the next day or something, I just had to go on Ravelry, and then I just had to start it, and but now I've got it out of my system. It's a nice little bag. And then I have a number of whips. Once at the beginning of this year, I had a plan that I was going to stick to, and that maybe I'd do a pair of socks a month. I'd try to do that. These are my February socks. But then no new projects, or not too many new projects to get rid of my whips. That's what I had sort of thought that I'd do. And see the past tense in here? Because it didn't really pan out that way. Now, some of you may remember that I made some leg warmers for my nieces for Christmas. Does this look familiar to you? This is the same pattern. This is the Water Lily leg warmers by Andy Clark. And I have used Drops Air yarn here. So Drops Air is, well, pretty sure that didn't focus. It is 150 meters for 50 grams. So it's 300 meters for 100 grams. And I had some leftovers of this color. This is color number 10. Fog, I think it was called. So I had some leftovers, but because from the leg warmers that I'd made for my niece, I had I have the rest of 2 balls. That's how I'm gonna. I was knitting them 2 at a time on magic loop, and and I had bought a 3rd ball to make a pair for a friend of mine. I just hadn't gotten around to it until now. So I started with the full skein. Yeah, this is from the full skein. One from the full skein and one for with the rest of one of the balls. I started with my 4.0 millimeter needles. That's US size 6, and it's not on focusing, sorry, but it's just ribbing. And once I did the increases and started doing the cable, I changed into 4.5 millimeter needles. That's US size 7. And I made 4 repeats of the cable with that size. That's how many repeats I made for my eldest niece with the 4.5 millimeter needle. And when I ran out of the first scrap, I changed into the second one. Don't remember where it was, but anyway, that's what I did. It's in this sock actually. And I continued with the full skein in here. And then, so after the 4.5 millimeter needles, I changed into 5.0 millimeter needles. That's US size 8. Made 4 repeats because this pair is for a friend of mine who's even taller than me, and I'm like mediocre height, 165 centimeters. She's taller than me. She has very tall legs. So yeah, so I'm making 4 repeats of each. 4.5, 5.0, and then 5.5 millimeter needles for 4 repeats, and 5.5 millimeter needles are, oh, I lost count. So size 6, 7, 8, size 9 US. That's 5.5 millimeter needles that I'm using. And of course, the full skein, I was able to finish 1 sock, but I ran out of the 2 rests, the 2 scraps that I had. So I put this aside and finished 1 with the full skein. And then I took the rest of my full skein, and continued doing the pair. And this is how far I got with that. So I knew actually that I would run out of yarn. That I think I had 80 grams of yarn to start with, and with the 4 repeats in each size needles, that wasn't going to be enough. But yeah, so that's why this is on hold, this this pair or this project. So I'm using my 5.5 millimeter knit picks. This is the, oh, what a glare. So 5.5 millimeter needles, knit picks Symphony. Interchangeables, and I was doing them on magic loop 2 at a time to start with, but when I ran out of yarn, the way the the yarn ball is made for the drops air, I just didn't think that it would be fun at all to knit from the same ball two at a time. So I just, put this aside and finished one, and then I used whatever I had to do continue with this. But I'm going to go to the store. This is just waiting for me to go to the store and get a new skein of this color. So this is more than half finished object. I haven't counted how many repeats I have left, but anyway, so this is my whip number 1 on hold until I get some more yarn. Then my whip number 2, which is a half finished object, something that I have not started after those, or don't remember the chronological order of my projects, but these are one of those things that I just got an idea in my head and it stuck. It stuck in my head, so I had to try and get it out of my system. I think I had sort of thought about this before, but then just didn't do it then. Now I did. So I've wondered what it would be like if I used a fingering weight yarn to make a cuff for mittens or gloves, and then I would start doing double knitting from the cuff up. So I tried that, and I used some scraps because, for this kind of project you would. So this is the scrap that I used, one of them, Flotte Socke, and this is a yarn that I had used in the scrap socks that I showed you last time. It was like more or less the base color for that. It's a fingering weight 400. How many? 420? Yeah, 420 meters in 100 grams, and it has 75% superwash. That's the virgin wool, is it? And 25% polyamide, and it's this sort of weird gray color. And then I used another scrap. This is Bice yarn. It's something that I used for a pair of socks that I knit for one of my nieces last year. And this is also 420 meters in 100 grams, and it has 75% superwash wool, 25% polyamide. And I thought that these two would look fun in a double knitting project. So I started the cuff with the gray. It's not great, but yeah, that's what it is. And then I can make a video of how I knit these when I do the second one, because I finished one. Let's put it in my right hand, because yeah. So the cuff is a little short, I guess. But yeah, this is what it looks like. So when I started with 56 stitches, and I made some 2x2 ribbing. The gray is so restless or so weird that you can't really tell maybe, but yeah, it's 2x2 ribbing. And when I was sick and tired of the ribbing, I knit around one round. I knit around once, let's put it that way, just with the gray color. I started, well, so this is with a 2.5 millimeter needle, and I thought that I might do the main part of the mitten. I was starting to make a glove, but it turned into a mitten. But yes, so I figured that I would change into 3.0 millimeter needle, so half a size bigger, half a millimeter bigger. 2.5 millimeters is 1.5 US, and 3.0 millimeter needle is 2.5 US, maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's what I had originally thought that I would do. And I had another idea that I would start knitting 3 with this. How can I explain? That I would start to knit with the gray, and then I would purl the same stitch with the orange, so that you'd have the orange stitch in the inside of the mitten, or as I thought it would be glove at the time. And then I, do like 3 grays in the front, so knits, and 3 oranges in the inside, and then switch the colors. But when I was trying to start the double knitting and switch into bigger needles on the same row, it was just really, it was loose and horrible and all that. So I didn't like the outcome, so I just ripped it back, started again, and sort of thought about, okay, so I have my 2.5 millimeter needle here with just one yarn. If I use the same 2.5 millimeter needle in the double knitting, it will be bigger, the stitches will be bigger, and the fabric will be sort of looser, because you have 2 sets of stitches that you're working. If you do double knitting, you'll know what I'm talking about. Maybe. I know I'm not explaining myself really well. Sorry. So anyway, so I decided that I would just knit around with the gray. And then after I had finished one round, I took another set of 2.5 millimeter needles, and I took a crochet hook, and then I would pick up 1 stitch per stitch from the inside of the the glove. And if you want, I can, take some video how I did that. Maybe not the best way to do that, but it worked for me. Was very much a lot of work for just one round, but it got me to a point where I knew what to do next. So on the next row, on the second row of plain stockinette in the inside, and of course, or in the outside, but of course in the inside too, that's, the purl stitches in double knitting. So for the second row, with just, knitting or just knits showing outside, I knit the gray stitch from the first round here with whichever color I want it to be. And then I would purl one stitch from the other needle that I had used to pick up some pickups and stitches. I know it seems complicated, and it was sort of complicated to do. But once I had worked that round, I had all my stitches on one set of needles. I was using DPNs to do that. So that's where I started to do these 3 stitches in one color, 3 stitches in another for 3 rounds, and then switch. Although in here, in the middle of the hand and the back of the hand, you had 4 stitches in one color for 3 rounds. Yeah, and then after the first square here, on the 4th round of this double knitting section, I started doing the thumb gusset. Can't say that was very easy and was but it was possible. And for that one, I decided to do just one stitch in one color, the next stitch in the next color. Kind of restless, but that's the colors I had chosen to use. Anyway, so once I had a certain number of thumb gusset stitches, I put them on hold, and I started to work in the round. I decreased 1 stitch in here to get 3 stitches in one color to start and to continue with, because at that point I realized that it was pretty big in my hand. If I had when I was planning to make a glove, I really wanted a well-fitting glove, and this was not a huge mitten, but just a little too loose for my taste to be a glove. So that's why I decided to make it into a mitten. And then what? Well, then I just since it felt so big in my hand, I thought that, okay, maybe I'll just give it to one of my brothers-in-law, because he doesn't mind wearing color. But I guess his hands are a bit bigger than mine, and I was getting bored. I was again getting bored of doing the same thing over and over again. And if you've done double knitting, you have double the amount of stitches. So I had 55, I think I had 55 stitches in one set. So I had 110 stitches in total for the hand. I was boring. So I stopped too early to make it bigger. So I will have to think rethink this. Either I keep them myself, although I did make the thumb bigger, longer. So what I think I'll do is I'll make the second glove, make it longer in the hand. I'll make different decreases here because this one looks stupid. So I think I'll just make it longer and then start making the decreases on each row, because I made decreases on one row plain, and then just work the next decrease row. So I don't like this in here. It looks stupid. So it'll be sort of more like this if I do it on each row. So I'll have to make some adjustments to the second glove. And then once I finish that, I will probably pick up all the stitches around in the outer side and in the inside of the glove, and then I will rip back the whole decrease section, knit it longer, and then do the decreases. But yeah, so the idea of this is that it has a double layer. It looks the same on the outside and on the inside. You can wear it either way around. If you had a different motif, you will have the colors reversed on the one side. But of course, since I just have like squares, it doesn't look different this way around or the other way around, if you don't look close enough, because here is where you see that the first round was all in gray on the other side and all in this sort of orange color on this side of the glove. But yeah, so this was just something that I wanted to try, and with some adjustments it'll be okay. Yeah, but I hope. And I'll make a pair. I'll make a buddy to this one sooner or later. Yes, so that was my other sort of hoe or other whip with a lot of work put into it. And then, okay, let's do this one. Then I have a scrappy project, something that I'm planning to do all year. Now, many people do the coziest memories blanket. This is sort of the same idea, but I don't think I'm a blanket person, or at least at the moment. I don't intend to make a blanket with all sorts of scraps. But the idea of having all the yarn from one year sort of appealed to me. I have made similar or projects with the same sort of idea before. So when I was competing in the Tour de sock knitting competitions, something that's been on hold for a couple of years, maybe, well, will never be sort of done again. But anyway, so I have made some scarves with all the leftovers from my Tour de Sock pairs. And then I made a cowl with the same idea, that I used the scraps from the yarns that I'd used for my Tour de Sock socks. So for this year, last December, I got the idea that what if I used my fingering weight scraps for something that I'm going to knit all year, this year, 2021. So that's where I sort of started, and I more or less at the same time knew what pattern I would use for it. So the pattern I'm using is a double knitting. That's why I was making mittens. So I started with this one actually. So a double knitting project from Nathan Taylor, who is Sockmatician online. And this is his Il Burato scarf. And this is the first section of the scarf. And the yarns I used here, the first, let's go backwards. The first project that I finished this year was the t-shirt with the stripes, the V back neck t-shirt. But I didn't have any scraps from that. But the next project that I finished this year was the scrap socks, and I have quite a few scraps from there. So here I have the Novita Tico yarn that I used for my socks. So this is a discontinued sock yarn, fingering weight, 75% wool, 25% polyamide. And then I'm gonna take it out of the bag. And then I used some Drops Fable colorway 109 for contrast. So I have I have a self-patterning yarn, and then I have a solid. Put them together in the first section. And this is how it looks on one side, and this is how it looks on the other side. I have photos of these in my project page and link below. And then for the next section, don't have both yarns in here right now, but for the colorful, the variegated or self-patterning or something in the lines of that, I used this Lang Mille Colori sock and lace lux yarn that I used in my scrappy socks. And then I used another color of Drops Fable, and this is how they look together. So this has got some stellina in it, the sort of variegated or self-striping thing. Has some stellina, and I think you can see it in here. And let's see if I can show you the other side. This is how it looks on the other side. Fun. Okay, so that was my idea, that I'll try and put together a solid or a semi-solid color with a variegated self-patterning, self-striping, or something in that line for each section. And I started with these two because I knew I had lots of yarn for these, because I had no idea how many grams of yarn I needed for any number of rows. So when I started with this, I have weighed all my scraps. I am that kind of person. So I had weighed these two scraps, and once I finished the section, I weighed them again to see how many grams of each color I used for this number of row, and I have it in my notes on Ravelry. So I knew that I would need at least X amount of grams for Y amount of rows in the pattern, or in the charts, because all the charts are the same width. So that's how I continued. Which side would I? Okay, so for the next one, I actually used this the gray one, and then I had sort of a semi-solid yellow color. I don't have the tag in here, but it's Rouva Silmusolmu merino sukki. So it's a merino sock yarn, and the colorway is called Kultakuume. That's Gold Fever. And this is how they look together. Wow, man, it is amazing. I love it. It's great. They look so nice together. Oh man. So on the other side, with the sort of the gray being the dominant color, this is how they look. So this is not as much in your face as the yellow, but oh man, I like them. So the next one, the color combo was not very good, was not my best idea, let's say, but that's, well, I just wanted to put some two together, and even though you can't make up the motif as well, it's not a bad section. I have one of the colors or the tags in here, but it's in a bag, so I'm just gonna pause for a while. So one of them was one of the colors or one of the yarns was from Cosmic Strings. Their sock base, don't remember if it has a special name, and then the colorway is called Wabi Sabi, so it's variegated green with greens and stuff, you'll see. And then the other yarn I used in this section is from Lanitium Ex Machina. It's a Finnish Finnish dyer, sorry, and it's her glitter sock base. Oh, it's not on focus, but this colorway is called Alice in Wonderland. How Long is Forever, and it's 400 meters, 100 grams, and 70% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and 5% stellina. And this is how it looks on cake, on a flat cake, because I've used quite a bit of it. But as you can see, it has some gold stellina in there. No, sorry, silver stellina. Yeah. So this is how they look together. So the variegated part is the Cosmic Strings Wabi Sabi. It's a lot of fun, and I've used it in a shawl before, and then I used it in the socks, and now I used it in this project. And then there is this variegated green. I'd say pretty variegated, but semi-solid green. That's the Lanitium Ex Machina. And this is how it looks on the other side with the green dominant. So this is actually, you can't see the motif as well, in my opinion. But yeah, pretty okay. And then the last one that I've finished is not a very good combination either. Master of poor choices in color combinations. But anyway, I don't think I have any tags. Oh yes, actually, I think that one of them is this. No, it is this Venla. I'm pretty sure it is. And then the other one is also Novita Venla yarn, but it's a self-patterning one, but it's same yarn company. The self-patterning, as you can see, it has sort of stripes and then these two colored sections. and then a solid stripe, and then some two colored sections. I thought that it would, with a very good contrast, because there is no red in this self-patterning yarn, and I thought that it would be an okay match, but especially off camera, it's not, the motif is not very clear. This is how it looks on the other side. This is even worse, I think. But yeah, sort of a memory of what I made. So I had made some socks from the red one, so the socks that I showed you, and then I'd used the variegated for the socks that I had finished, that I showed you in the last episode, in memoriam socks from Tiina. So yeah, I tried a different combination because the in memoriam socks were horrible. This is a little better, but not a great combo either. But yeah, this is how much I've done now so far. I do have some scraps left, some scraps that I haven't used yet, but nothing to, because I do, even though I don't want to plan too much, like do like color charts or anything, I do want to have it sort of random, but I would prefer doing something like this with a sufficient contrast between the colors so that you really can see that motif. But it's fun. I don't remember how many stitches there are on the needle, but it does get somewhat tedious at times. That's why I'm sort of switching it around with something other that I'm doing. That's a whip. And something else. Yes, my last whip. The one that I have been working on right now. It's a really old whip. More of a UFO. I forgot to check. Maybe I was from 2019, so not that old, but still a few years old. So I had done a test knit. Then it was a test knit to knit one sock, and I had I was testing for size 43/44 or something like that. So quite a big size. And I finished that, and it was all right, but I knew that I had used 55 grams of the yarn and I had 100-gram ball, but I had knit one sock to match the instructions. Sorry, kicked the camera. So I knew that I would not have enough yarn, but these are toe-up socks, so it's fine, because you can rip from one and start knitting the other one, and that's what I'm doing right now. So this is actually the sock that I had knit then. This is pattern called Just Some Tiny Hole Socks by Gaël Guérin, and it hasn't been blocked, but you start with the toe, do the toe increases, and then you start doing or making this sort of lace, small lace panel on one side of the sock, And then you start the heel increases, do some short rows for the heel, and then you turn the heel and do the reinforced part of the heel, and then continue, of course, with the lace. And then you had some ribbing, but as you can see, it doesn't have any ribbing anymore because I'm trying to get them to match. So this is the one that I've been knitting right now. So that one I finished a few years ago, a couple of years ago. This is something that I started a few days ago. So with this, with the toes, start with the toes, do the increases, work the lace on the other side of the foot, and then of course start the heel increases, etc., etc. The same thing for the second sock. For these, I am using some pretty small needles, DPNs. As you can see, these are my Knit Pro Zings 2.25. It is because the gauge required was so small that I decided that I'd get it with a 2.25 millimeter needle. That's something that people usually use for fingering weights. Yarn 2.25 is US size 1, maybe. Yeah, well, anyway, so they're not the same height yet. I'll have to see how many repeats I need to make. So I have like 20, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25 repeats of the lace in here, and how more? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 28 in here. 25 and 28. So I'll probably start doing the ribbing in here, and then rip back to the same amount of motifs in here and do the ribbing, and then I'll have a small nugget of leftover, but they will become a pair. This yarn is something, I think it's Lana, Sockenwolle, something. Don't have. I might have the tag. Just let me check. I do have the tag in here. So this is the yarn. Lana. Pro socks. 4-fach. So 4 ply. Skyline. It's a 75% virgin wool, 25% polyamide, 420 meters and 100 grams. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing now. So I do have the old and then all the new, and this is sort of old, but just a rerun a rerun of something old. I think I have been talking quite a while and I'm still not finished. I will, edit some of the stuff out. So it will probably somewhere around 1 hour right now. Okay, and now I'll just talk about 2 books that I've read, and if you can hear the noise, it's the dog and his nails clickety clacketing on the floor. But yes, so 2 books that I've read, or one of them was an audiobook, so wasn't technically reading, I was listening. And one of them is an actual book. But I just, chose two pretty different books, something that is, or both of them are available in English, or they're originally in English. So for my international viewers, so first of all, the audiobook, and I'll put a picture of the cover here. I did listen to it in Finnish, so that's the audiobook. It's from Heather Morris, and in Finnish it's Cilkan tarina. It's Cilka's journey in English. So this was a book that I was pretty hesitant to start listening or, start reading in any shape or form. I knew that it was about the horrors of World War II and the concentration can't talk, concentration camps and all that. And I'm very emotional when I read books. I mean, I cry when I read, and I also laugh out loud. But yeah, so I wasn't sure. I knew the stuff that had happened, and that in part still happen, sadly. But yeah, so that was sort of the reason why I decided that, okay, I will choose that book. I will start reading or listening to it, even though I know that it will be something horrific. And in a way, it was a good thing that it was an audiobook, and that's one of the factors that made me choose to start it, because listening to an audiobook is not quite as intense. So the audiobooks don't get under my skin same way the actual books do. Because, well, first of all, it's where I listen to them. I walk outside. I'm walking the dog. Oops. So there's the traffic around me that I have to stay focused in, and all that. So I knew that I wasn't going to be immersed in the story so much. And yeah, so that was sort of why I started to listen to it. And so Cilka, or Cecilia Klein, was an actual person during the Second World War. She was sent to Auschwitz and then Birkenau, both, concentration camps close to one another. And she went through, the horrors of the concentration camps in there. And then after she sort of got out of Birkenau, she was sentenced to Siberia, to a working laboring camp, whatever. One of the camps in Siberia, forced labor camp. That's what I was looking for. For fraternizing with the enemy or something like that. Anyway, so the now moment in the book is in Siberia, and then they have these flashbacks from Auschwitz-Birkenau. And even though she tells about the terrible things that happened in both places, it's more of a story of how people cope in those kind of circumstances, how they just how they survive. And it was a story about sort of friendships and things like that. So it wasn't as bleak as I was afraid of. And yes, it helped that I know I only listen to audiobooks when I'm walking the dog. So once I get home, I stop. So I don't sort of listen to the books hours and hours on end. It takes an hour some to walk the dog, but you know what I mean. But yeah, so it wasn't as bad, although it was horrible. But I thought that since those people in those days and in those kind of situations, even nowadays, have to go through, or are forced to go through all sorts of things. For me, as a white woman, middle-aged white woman in Finland, it's not too much to ask to learn about those stories. It's not 100% true story. It has fictional elements, and the dialogues are fictional because the author never talked to Cilka herself, I think. And there's a long section of sort of the real historical events at the end of the book. But yeah, so not a biography, but true things that happen to people. Maybe not just to her, and certainly not only to her. Yeah, so that was one book that I thought I'd sort of recommend, or just I'd mention and talk about, just to show you that really, like, I choose a lot of different books. And so to balance out that sort of very tough kind of literature, tough kind of stories, this is what I just read. So, a book from Adam K. Kohta voi vähän kirpaista. In Finnish, nuoren lääkärin salaiset päiväkirjat. So the original is called This is Going to Hurt, Secret Diaries of a Junior Doctor. This is a wacky book. So Adam K is the the narrator of the book. He tells about the everyday life. These are sections of his diary when he had just finished his medical school and started working in NHS in Britain. And he specialized in gynecology, I think that's the word. Anyway, so he tells about his stuff that happened during birth, before birth, and with women and their kids and families and all sorts of things, with a very, very humoristic way. And so this is a really lightweight book. But something that I would not recommend for somebody who's expecting a baby, because it does give a very fact of the matter kind of picture of the whole process. So if you're just going through that or going to go through that, or you have just given birth, then maybe you'll be a little too sensitive for this book. But for me, my youngest is 8, so it's just something fun. Not much of a plot in this book though, because they are just small sections of diary, so like anecdotes of his working life. But he does start each section with sort of a longer explanation and tells about a little bit about his personal life at that point. So if you're unsure about healthcare or anything, maybe you shouldn't read this. But yeah, just to show you that, I read different things. I enjoy reading different things, and certainly not just serious books. And like I said before, like serious literature is not really my cup of tea, maybe. We'll see. I do have something borrowed from the library, something that I would myself considered serious literature, but we'll see when I get to them. Yeah, so that was my sort of reading part. And yes, my Instagram handle for the reading is NiinaN Reading. I'll put it on the screen. I put some sort of small descriptions and my opinions on the books that I read and listen to on that Instagram, on my Instagram. So if you're interested, you can check it out. And yeah, so I think that's all. I've been talking way too long. And the dog's waiting for me to take him out. So I took some video clips, yes, I think yesterday and the day before or something. I was walking around Jyväskylä, and that's what I will leave you with. So just some views around, sceneries around Jyväskylä at the very end of this episode. And I'll make a separate, like I said, I'll make a separate video of my sewings, and that'll appear on the channel at some point. Yeah, but I hope everybody's feeling okay. Still a distressing time. We'll not talk about that now. But yes, we'll be just going from day to day. And I'll see you probably in another month's time. See ya. Bye.